Okay, King, you're going down, for I am Roronoa Zoro, the pirate hunter that has mastered Enma, the great guardian of hell. Ah yes, Roronoa Zoro, that Enma is impressive. However, I am a Pteranodon, so you lose automatically. Then we shall fight. Yes, we shall. Son told you, Pteranodon something. Yes, I have won the day once more. I have defeated the enemy. Ah, yes. Oh, Zoro, I love you so much. We should go get married. Sure, yes, why not? Okay. That's Zoro's character arc for Wano, right there, summed up pretty quickly, yeah. Okay, hey everybody, how are you doing? This will be Tekking101 back again to review One Piece, chapter 1035, titled Zoro vs. Kingu! Which is weird, because just like how the Sanji vs. Queen chapter had nothing to do with Sanji vs. Queen, this chapter is all about Brook making tea. Now, don't get me wrong, this is an exciting chapter. If nothing else, honestly, this is the most exciting chapter of all of 2021. But it's honestly just Brook taking a break from the battle, finding the kitchen in Onigashima, and then he goes through 18 pages of how to make really good tea. Now, it's cool because he goes through everything, like harvesting the tea leaves and plugging in the kettle. He gives some safety tips. He heats the mug up first because if you warm the mug, that makes the tea look better. I don't know, man. I don't know much about tea. You know, anyway, it's a really good chapter, so let's just get into it. Okay, actually, no, it's Zoro versus King, and it's very epic. But before we get to that, we actually have a new cover story, and I went back and looked because I was curious. We have not had a cover story for all of this year, for 2021. Now, granted, the last cover story we had was Beiji's Oh My Family, and that was a long one. That one lasted like 37 chapters of the cover page, which is a pretty long serial, so I understand why Oda wanted to take a break for a while. So literally, this is probably going to be the last chapter of 2021. We might get something maybe before the end of the year, like an early release or something, but yeah, this is probably going to be the last one, and so we finally kick off the new cover serial, and it's focusing on the Germa Double Six, baby. Oh, this is going to be good. To be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed that we don't see the marvelous misadventures of Caesar Clown. I still think that is prime real estate for a cover serial, by the way. You know, Caesar getting into a bunch of wacky science adventures all up and down the New World. There's some fun that could be had there, but no, we should probably focus on the Germa first because we have no idea what happened to them at the end of Totland. So in the cover series here, we just see the Germa kingdom, like the actual whole kingdom, you know, like the giant castle that was on the ship and then all the other ships that were carried by the giant slugs, you know, through the sea. They're leaving Whole Cake Island looking very, very badly damaged. All of the sea slugs look very, very beat up. So they're the ones that carry, like, it's like the Germa kingdom is like made of Legos where it can like separate and then join together, right? And so these slugs are just looking like tired and just like, oh man, this sucks. And it's just like, where are we going? I don't know where we're going, Phil. I'm like, I don't know, I'm sorry, man. It's been a rough week. We literally had to just sail through a battlefield to get out of here. Like, I know, all right? Everybody's on edge right now. So even the sea slugs are on edge. They're leaving. We don't get to see the Vinsmokes. We don't see Judge or Ichiji, Niji, Yonji, or Reiju. We'll focus on them throughout the serial. Where exactly are they gonna go? I don't know, because the whole point of this was like for them to ally with Big Mom, and so through that alliance, Judge was going to finally fulfill the wish of his ancestors and take over the North Blue. Like, that was the whole point why they were there. That was the whole point why they did the whole thing with Sanji and Pudding and the wedding and all that stuff, and now all of that is thrown out the window. So I can imagine it's very quiet. It's very somber of a mood right now on the Germa Kingdom's flagship, okay? They're sailing away. They managed to escape Totland. They managed to get away from Whole Cake Island in Big Mom's grasp. Also, Big Mom is way more laser focused on finding Luffy right now. Like, that is her prime objective. So Beiji kind of managed to get away. The Germa managed to get away. She doesn't really care about them. She cares about Luffy. Obviously, we're also going back in time a little bit here because this is when the Germa were leaving Totland, right? Well, I can imagine it's very very quiet on the deck of the ship. All of the clone troopers that were working for the Germa, you know, the clone soldiers and stuff, they're patching each other up on the decks, you know, they're bandaging each other, there's injured everywhere. Nobody's talking, nobody's saying anything. And then Judge just walks out on deck, and everyone is even more quiet. Judge is like, he has a bandage over an eye, he might have lost an eye, and he's just walking out on the deck. And then the vid smokes are there, like Ichiji, Niji, Reiju are all there. They're not really sure what to say to their father because he's really distraught. Literally, his best laid plans have just been thrown in the dumpster. So he just walks out, stares out at the sea, and Judge is just like, fuck! And he just like yells the F word as loud as he can out into the ocean. And then, and then he just walks back inside. And just like, that's it, all right? So we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll go back to the North Blue. They might try to maybe just find an island to just rest and recover and to fix their kingdom. I'm not really sure if they can manage to find a place like that, but maybe somewhere. I guess we'll see what happens. Anyway, we cut to the actual chapter itself, and we continue where we left off last time with Sanji lighting up Ifrit Jumbe, and then BAM! Kicking Queen right in the chin, knocking him back. And we didn't really see the full breadth of how powerful that kick was. We saw knocking Queen back, but we didn't know how far back. Okay, so first off, Sanji kicks Queen so damn hard, it knocks the Brachiosaur right out of him, alright? So he gets reverted back to his regular form. I hesitate to say human because he's also a cyborg, so his regular cyborg form. His mechanical arm is also completely destroyed. We see it like smoke coming out of it because Sanji ripped it off. So his mechanical arm is completely obliterated, and so he gets knocked out through a wall, through another wall, through a third wall, and just gets catapulted out of Onigashima. Like, seriously, like, we see it in full view. Like, here's the island. Here's the entire island that Momo is trying to push right now, right? And Onigashima's on top of the island. Queen is just, pew! Like, he's going over the edge of Onigashima. Like, he's over the ocean right now. And then we just cut away. So I don't know how that's gonna happen. If somebody does not pick up Queen, he's pretty unconscious right now. I mean, maybe he could regain consciousness and he has some sort of cybernetic enhancement, like he has like go gadget helicopter blades, and like his mustache turns into helicopter blades or something. This is One Piece, so I wouldn't doubt it. But like, unless he regains consciousness and he has like jet boosters or somebody else comes to pick him up, he's gonna fall in the ocean, alright? I don't think Queen's just gonna fall in the ocean and die. I severely doubt that. So he will be saved in some way, shape, or form. Oh, wait, no. They're over Wano right now. I'm a freaking idiot. All right, they're no longer over the ocean. Sorry, apologize for that. Still, though, him just falling off of an island pretty high up in the air and then hitting, he's gonna crash down right in the middle of the flower capital. Alright, so that makes it even funnier to me. Alright, so let's say he doesn't regain consciousness, and then there's just a bunch of people hanging out. Like, that's how the people of the Flower Capital finally realize that there's an island floating over them, where they're just hanging out, playing some, like, carnival games or whatever. It's just like, Dad, I want to win a prize! He's like, alright, son, well, I'll throw a dart at the balloon, and then all of a sudden Queen just lands in the middle of the cart and just destroys it, and just, oh no, wait, is that Queen? Oh, wait, what the? Oh my god, there's a giant muffin in the sky! That's when people finally notice. It takes Queen falling out of the sky like a meteor in order for them to realize. But anyway, yeah, so Sanji kicks him, and he's standing there just looking really pissed off, because he is. And he's just like, yeah, but is Sanji really Sanji, or is he actually a Germa the whole time? Well, no, he's Sanji. We all know he was Sanji, alright? So, of course, we have, we have the geisha that was there along with her little mouse companion, Chuji. And so we have a moment there where she's really nervous because she doesn't know what Sanji's going to do. And then we just have Sanji go over and pick up the mouse, Chuji, and really happy little mouse. He's like, Chuji! And then he just goes over and hands Chuji over to her. I forget her name, I'm sorry. And he just gives her the mouse. And then she's like, oh my god, Chuchi, thank you so much. And then Sanji, this is actually a really cool reference that I completely forgot about. We actually have a scene where Sanji flashes back to when he was a little kid living in the Germa Kingdom and how he would make food for like the mice that would come into his room and stuff, okay? So Sanji himself had a little mouse companion that he gave like a plate of like risotto to when he was a kid or whatever. And so I remember that scene, but I completely forgot about the reference here, alright? So this is supposed to, I guess, tell us right away that Sanji is still Sanji, as if we didn't already know that. But like, you know, if he was Niji or Ichiji right now, like Sanji would have picked up the mouse and been like, so this mouse is your friend? And the geisha would have been like, yes, he's my best friend in all of the world. Thank you for saving him. Ah, okay. Crush. And then like Niji would have just crushed the damn mouse and just killed it in his hands. Like, ha 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 ha. You know? But no, of course, Sanji just picks up the mouse, hands it over to her. He remembers the mouse from his childhood and just like how he would feed the animals and stuff in the Germa Kingdom, how he was a very kind-hearted child. And Sanji, I think this is the first moment in a while that he's able to actually relax and calm down. He knows that he did not hit this woman, and he knows that, you know, he doesn't have the murderous urge to kill a small animal, so he's still himself. He's not like his brothers, okay? So he takes solace in that, and then he immediately passes out. He just hands the mouse over and he's like, ah, I'm glad I'm not like my brothers. Ugh. And then he just falls over. And so the geisha's there, so she's going to help out Sanji, so don't worry about that. And we see the narrator come on, Skull Dome, Left Brain Tower, the Pleasure Hall fight. Doesn't specifically say Sanji versus Queen fight, it just says the Pleasure Hall fight, but it does say winner or victor Sanji. Okay, so there we go. And so then the geisha's just like, oh my god, please, somebody help, we need first aid. And so they're gonna help out Sanji. He'll probably get back up and maybe, I don't know, like there's really nobody else major for Sanji to fight because, you know, Zoro's got taken care of King and, you know, Luffy's fighting against Kaido right now. I mean, maybe Sanji will recover before the battle's over just to help, you know, finish off the lower members of like the Beast Pirates, like the Waiters and Pleasures and stuff. But other than that, Sanji's pretty much done fighting, okay? So now, with that being said, we cut to the opposite side of the Skull Dome. So that was on the left side of the Skull Dome. On the right side of the Skull Dome of Muffin Mountain, that's where the fight with King and Zoro is currently in progress, okay? And it seems Zoro has actually finally figured out the weakness that King has, okay? And it's one of those situations, like in a video game, where it's like, okay, while the boss is glowing red, he's invincible, but when he stops glowing red, that's when he's vulnerable. It's kind of something like that. In the case with King, it's the flames on his back, okay? So the flames are not always active, and so Zoro decided to think like, alright, well, let me try cutting. Obviously, cutting him when the flames are active does nothing. It does no damage to him. He doesn't bleed. So maybe if I try cutting him when the flames are not active, maybe that'll do something, and it does. It seems like a trade-off, so whenever whenever King turns off his flames, he gets wicked faster, alright? And Zoro notices this, so he's like, okay, so when the flames are on, he basically has insanely destructive power and immense amounts of defense and endurance. So to the point where I can't cut him, even if I'm using, like, the strongest techniques in my repertoire, like Lion's Song or Onigiri, it doesn't matter, it's not hurting him, okay? Now, when he turns the flames off, he's like wicked speed blitzingly fast, but I can cut him and it can actually hurt him, okay? And so Zoro has pretty good reflexes and he's pretty fast as well, so I could see why Zoro would be like, alright, well, if this is the only way I can defeat him, then this is what I have to do. And so he's got his swords, he's got Enma, he's got it charged up with Conqueror's Haki, Armament Haki, he's ready to go, okay? And so with that being said, he does actually manage to slice off King's mask in this chapter, and we see the whole thing just get ripped right down the center and like split apart. And so all the other members of the Beast Pirates that are still somehow conscious while all this is going on are like, oh no, King's mask, it's coming off! I'm actually kind of curious what he looks like. Yeah, I am too, man. Let's hang out here. We might die, but I'm a little curious, you know? And so King notices his mask is like beyond repair, and so he's like, he just takes it and just rips the rest of it off himself. And we finally get to see his face, okay? And so the Beast Pirates are witnessing this in the background, and they're just like, oh, It was true. The rumors. So, from what we understood before, when the little bit of King's mask was knocked off, we saw that he had white hair, brown skin, and also the little tattoo around his eye, okay? And so the Beast Pirates are there witnessing that, and they're like, wait a second, white hair, brown skin, the black wings, you know. Oh, wait, we know that. That's... The world government was going to issue a 100 million berry reward for anybody that has any information of somebody with that specific description of that appearance. All right? And so we see King's face, and he's rather attractive, I have to say. I mean, like... King is pretty hot, and I'm not just saying that because he has fire on his back and he can control flames and stuff. He's pretty hot. I mean, I'll just say it. His white hair is like in a braid. The tattoo we see in its full view now, it kind of resembles an olive branch to me, which is like a symbol for peace, which is interesting considering that, you know, they were Lunarians that lived on top of the Red Line, and then the world government came and knocked them all off. And it's probably not supposed to be an olive branch. Maybe Oda has another intention of what that tattoo is or what it means or something, or it could be just something indicative of Lunarian culture and just something that he invented. I guess we'll wait to see. Well, anyway, as we found out earlier, King does not like anybody to see his face, okay? And so when the Beast Pirates realize who he is and he's a Lunarian, and the world government is apparently issuing a 100 million berry reward for anybody that could have any information on Lunarians. By the way, 100 million berries just for information is insane in the One Piece world. That is a lot of money. That was literally Luffy's second bounty, was 100 million. That is the threshold for being considered a super rookie. And the government is willing to hand out that much money, not for a pirate, not for an object, just for information and information alone. Which I have to say kind of creates a little bit of a problem, because if it's that much money the world government is offering, wouldn't they get people all the time coming up to the world government and the Marines and being like some random Joe six-pack off the street? He just walks up to a Marine office and he's like, yeah, so, you know, those Lunarians you're looking for, I have information on them. It's like, oh, really? You do? And he's like, yeah, there's a Lunarian that lives 3 towns that way. I saw him working at a bakery. Can I have my 100 million berries now? Absolutely, sir. Here you go. Come on, bring the Marines. Bring the Admirals. Bring the Fleet Admiral. Bring the Cypher Pole. We're bringing them in. And he just run off, and he just like, oh man, that was easy. I got 100 million berries. Cool. He just walks away. So I'm imagining, okay, it's a 100 million berry reward, but there's probably some stipulations. It's like, okay, number one, we have to confirm that what you told us was true. After we've confirmed that it's true, then we'll give you your 100 million berries. And there's probably also a punishment if you're lying. All right, because like I said, if that was the case, there'd be people all over the place going around, right? And so it's just like, if you're lying or if it's just misinformation, even if you weren't sure, you know, like let's say your neighbor dyed their hair white just for a fashion choice, and it's like, oh, they're a Lunarian, and just like, no, they're not. He's like, well, I'm sorry. He's like, yeah, let's just kill him. And they just like kill the guy for the lack of information for wasting the Marines' time, right? Okay, so there's probably some stipulations and punishments involving that, but that's still a lot of money, which just goes to say how much the world government wants the Lunarians wiped off the map, or at least to be captured and studied, as we'll see later in this chapter, okay? Well, anyway, King does, for that reason and many other reasons, he doesn't like his face to be seen, okay? And so the Beast Pirates witness that, and they're like, oh, wait, we're all gonna die now. Yeah, pretty much. It's like, all right, well, at least we got to see King's face. It's an honor serving with you, buddy. And so King's response to this, it's kind of similar to the moment back in Totland when Katakuri was found out during his merienda, when Katakuri was eating like, I like donuts, yummy, yummy, yummy. And then, you know, Luffy destroys his mochi shrine, and then all of the cooks that made the donuts get to witness Katakuri lying on his back in such a deplorable way, eating donuts like a commoner, for God's sake. And then what Katakuri did, though, Katakuri kind of went into blind rage when that happened, though. You know, the cooks were just like, Mr. Katakuri, sir, I'm sorry, we didn't see anything. We didn't see your ripped mouth. He's like, ugh. Who has a ripped mouth now? He's like, no, 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 please! And then Katakuri goes on a freaking bloody rampage, and he was pissed, and he just slaughtered everybody that witnessed it, okay? Now, King, it's similar, but King is a lot more, like, calm and a lot more in control when this happens. And I guarantee you, this has probably happened before. I mean, King has obviously killed a lot of people. He's, like, the second in command of the Beast Pirates. But this in particular of, like, somebody seeing his face or a large group of people seeing his face, the way he responds to this is just so chill. You get the impression he's done this before, all right? Where he sees the Beast Pirates, you know, looking at him, and he's just like, Imperial Dragon Flames, wake up! And then just burns them alive right there. He doesn't look mad, he doesn't look upset, he just looks annoyed, if nothing else. He's just like, man, I hate it when people get to see my face. Now I have to murder every single person around me and make sure nobody gets out alive. It's just a pain in the ass, you know, Imperial Dragon Flames. So he adds Armament Haki to his sword, adds fire to his sword, the flames on his back erupt even more, and then a giant flaming magma dragon appears behind him as he flaps his wings that just incinerates every beast pirate that witnessed his unmasking, okay? They all just get burned alive right in front of him. So now it's just King and Zoro just standing in an inferno right now. As if Onigashima wasn't on fire enough, now it's even more on fire, right? Okay, so yeah, obviously King doesn't like that. You know, even Zoro brings that up. He's just like, you know, the castle was already on fire. You didn't have to do that. It was already gonna burn down. Now, here's the thing, though. Zoro kind of glances over, and he's just like, you know, who are you exactly? And King, he's just really kind of, once again, just kind of somber, kind of just like, every time his face is exposed, he's forced to remember the death of his entire tribe. Everybody that his parents, everybody he ever cared about, if he had brothers or sisters or everybody, all of his friends growing up were all wiped out by the world government. Well, I guess not growing up because, well, kind of. Okay, so the idea is the Lunarians lived on top of the Red Line like 800, 900 years ago, okay, or before the world government took over. Then the world government took over and kicked them off the Red Line. Now, that doesn't mean they all died right there. Obviously, they couldn't have all died right there because King is still alive, and this is 800 years later. And from what we see in this chapter, Lunarians seem to age normally compared to humans, okay, because King is 47. We see a flashback of him, you know, in this chapter. So the idea is, yeah, they age normally. So the Lunarians back then, probably a lot of them were slaughtered, but some of them managed to escape and live on other islands. They were just hunted down by the world government. Some were killed, some were thrown into Punk Hazard for research, as is the case with King. And so, yeah, I'm sure King is the last one. So, like, his parents and his brothers, sisters, anybody that might have lived in this small little group were probably annihilated a long time ago, and then King himself was captured by the world government, taken to Punk Hazard, okay? So, you know, when he wears that gimp suit, it's literally just like him to maybe forget about his past, and every time he looks into the mirror, he doesn't really see himself, so he can kind of move on. But the rare occasion where his mask gets destroyed and he's faced with who he is, he has this moment of just like somber reflection where he's just like, and so Zoro, he's just there, he's just like, man, who are you? You want to tell me about your race? Which, by the way, Zoro, kind of a personal question right there. And King just kind of just like, why should I bother? You're gonna be dead soon anyway. And so King just transforms into a Pteranodon, but he's not wearing his mask this time, so we get to see his actual face turning into the Pteranodon, which is very interesting. And then he just flies straight at Zoro, launching attacks. I'm not really sure, because King did have like Gatling guns on his wings, but he might be also firing fire at him, okay? Like fire bullets, kind of like Ace fired the fire bullets and stuff. At any rate, he's firing a projectile at Zoro. Zoro's blocking the attacks. He's twirling in the air. He lands and he's just like looking at Enma and he's like, look, this sword is siphoning off a lot of my hockey right now. I can't keep this fight up for very long, so I need to finish you off as quickly as possible. So then after that, King transforms back into his Lunarian form. He's like flying in the air looking down at Zoro. And this is where we have a little bit of an issue with translations from the unofficial to the official, okay? So King, in the unofficial translations that I read, says at this point, like, oh, I'm reaching my limit too. You know, because Zoro's like, you know, I can't keep this fight up much longer. Enma's taking a lot of my hockey. And King is like, yeah, I'm kind of reaching my limit as well. But in the Viz translation, he doesn't say that. He says, you are quite a threat. He's like acknowledging Zoro that like, you are quite a threat to us. Okay, and at the same time, Zoro responds in kind. He's like, well, he thinks to himself, he's just like, well, he's probably a member of a race that I've never met before, but I guess that's not really important right now. And so he says to King, he's like, oh, okay, I guess we're the same then. You know, you acknowledge me as a threat, I acknowledge you as a threat. But he also says, you know, well, you guys, the Beast Pirates, you guys have been on top for long enough. It's time to step down. It's time for us to take over, which is kind of a messed up thing to say, given the fact, now Zoro obviously doesn't know about the whole past with the Lunarians or anything, but just the fact, like, literally the Lunarians were living on top of the red line, on top of the world, and then the world government comes in and just like, your time is up. It's time for you to all get slaughtered and get kicked off. And then they did that. And then Zoro here is just like, you've had your time on the top. Now it's time for us to take over. It's just unintentionally very insensitive to King right now. It's just like, dude, are you serious? I'm like, oh my God. All right, well, I guess we're fighting, but man, dude, I know you don't know my past or anything, but that's just oddly specific. It's just like, all right. Well, anyway, Zoro takes out his sword and he activates King of Hell or Guardian of Hell Santoryu style, all right? Which means that he's actually adding, because, you know, Enma's literal translation is the Guardian of the Hell or King of Hell, okay? So that means that Zoro is, hold on, do I have Enma at arm's reach? Crap, where's Enma? Oh no, where's Enma? Where's Enma? Oh, it's right here, okay. So that means Zoro is kind of naming his Santoryu style after Enma right now, which, you know, begs the question, maybe from this point onwards, Zoro will have different versions of his Santoryu depending on which sword he's like focusing on. So obviously this fight is all about Enma. He's focusing about mastering Enma, utilizing Enma with conquerors and stuff. And this is the first time Zoro's really controlled conquerors and used it. He used it against Kaido, but he wasn't really sure that was what it was. Right now he knows what it is. So maybe we can have a, you know, the Road to Harmony Santoryu style after the Wado, or the Tetsu Santoryu, the Demon Cutter Santoryu style, right? You know, based off the sword that he's using, like, leading with, okay? Or he's mainly cutting with, okay? So maybe look forward to that, but all of his swords are now, like, they're just, it's a really cool aesthetic. I kind of like this more than the lightning that comes off of stuff when you use Conquerors on it. Zoro's swords are, like, steaming. There's, like, smoke or steam just swirling around the blades constantly. That's such a cool effect. I really like that, okay? Because he said, you know, it's time for you to step down, you know, King of Hell, Santoryu. King responds like, don't get ahead of yourself. Kaido will be the one that will be the Pirate King. And with that being said, we now have the flashback. Not a very long flashback, but we do have a flashback to the first time King met Kaido, alright? And so this takes place at Punk Hazard. We see the PH on the back of one of the buildings. It's PH number 6. So this is at Punk Hazard. We don't have an exact timeline when this happened, but let me go over the scene first, and then we'll talk about timelines after, okay? So Kaido has just broken out of his restraints. He has the handcuffs on, so we already knew he was captured many times before by the world government and the Marines. So he was captured at some point, thrown into Punk Hazard, chained up. He managed to escape. He got his Kanabo. He recovered, and then as he was escaping Punk Hazard, he ran into King. And so while Kaido was escaping, he runs into King, who's a lot younger at this point and who's chained up to like a table being experimented on by the scientists at Punk Hazard. And so Kaido walks by and he's just like, hey, kid, I noticed those endurance tests that they gave you. I'm probably like just straight up torture to like see the endurance that he could really take. And so King is just like, yeah, what about it? And he's like, you seem pretty tough. I'm blowing this popsicle stand. You want to come with me? I'm going to make a pirate crew and it's going to be awesome. And King's like, well, if the choice is either that or being here and being tortured, I guess I'm gonna go with you. He doesn't say that. In fact, it was mentioned in the Vivre card at their first meeting, which is this is what it is. King was very impressed by Kaido's strength. And so, you know, King is freed by Kaido, and then they just walk out of Punk Hazard, you know, just destroying it in the process, explosions, and you hear like an announcement over a loudspeaker that's like, the test subjects have escaped Punk Hazard 6, oh god! And it's like they're just walking out casually, like action movie stars, you know, like Bruce Willis walks out of the building and then just blows up behind him. They're doing that shit, alright? So they're walking out of Punk Hazard, just having a casual chat, and, you know, Kaido's just like, so, I hear you're a Lunarian. What's your name? And we find out King's name. In one of the translations, it's Arbor, A-R-B-E-R, which sounds too much like arbor, which is like a tree. King is a tree, but no. In the other one, it's Albert. And in some of the original translations, like the initial spoilers, it was Albert, which I'm like, oh god, I was reading those and I'm like, kind of hoping that King's real name was just Albert. I don't, because that's so funny. That's such a normal name for King. This dude that's a Lunarian. He can turn into a freaking Pteranodon. He can summon flames. He wears a BDSM gimp suit. He's one of the most interesting design characters. Hi, my name's Albert. Albert Smith, you know, that's my name. Like, no, but so his name is probably Albert. Which is, you know, it's a Lunarian name, so it wouldn't be anything really similar to other names we've heard so far. But anyway, King is like, oh, all right, hey, Albert, nice to meet you. But, you know, actually, you should go with the name King instead, because, you know, we're going to be the strongest, and you're going to be my right-hand man. And so then they just walk away. And so, one of the other things that King says to Kaido before he freed him was like, you know, do you really think you can change the world, or do you think the world can change? And Kaido's response to that was, oh, well, I know it can change. In fact, I'm the one that's gonna change it. In fact, I'm the only one who can change it. And then that's that flashback, and then we cut back to the present there with Zoro slicing King with Purgatory Onigiri, but at this point King has his flames back up so he can resist the attack, and Zoro realizes it's futile to try to attack him like that. Alright, so he does slice a boulder up in a pretty cool fashion, though. Anyway, so, King's backstory here. Alright, so when does this take place? Alright, so Kaido is a lot younger. This is the youngest that we have actually seen Kaido outside of, like, the silhouettes, because we've never seen a proper image of Kaido when he was on Rox's crew. It's always, like, in silhouette, alright? So we don't really know. But this had to have taken place after God Valley, because Kaido is out there on his own at this point. He was captured by the world government. Now, there's a few ways to look at this. You can either say, alright, so at God Valley, Kaido got the Ua Ua no Mi, model Azure Dragon, from Big Mom. And the way Big Mom talked about it was because of that devil fruit that allowed Kaido to survive God Valley. So maybe Kaido was really beaten up, he was about to die, maybe he was about to fall off a cliff or something into the ocean, and then Big Mom tossed him the Ua Ua, he ate it, turned into a dragon, and he flew away, or something like that. So you can either say, after the battle at God Valley, where there was a lot of Marines that were there, you know, Garp was there, a bunch of Marines were there, Roger was there, everybody was there. You could say immediately after God Valley, Kaido was captured because he was injured and he didn't really know how to control his dragon fruit. Maybe the dragon fruit managed to get him away at that moment, but he was still captured on his way out of God Valley. And so he was immediately thrown into Punk Hazard to be studied. That's where they took the DNA, the lineage factor sample, to make the artificial devil fruit. We don't know how old that artificial devil fruit was. Vegapunk could have made that 20, 30 years ago, if not longer, okay? And he just kept it on Punk Hazard as a failure, and that's when Momo ate it, like decades later. It could have been something like that, okay? So that's one option. The other option is Kaido managed to escape God Valley altogether with the Ua Ua no Mi, which I think is the more likely turn of events. So he's out on his own trying to fight the Marines and the government by himself because he thinks he's like, I'm really strong, I don't need anybody, I could take on the government by myself. But that's maybe when he got defeated the most times, because we learn in his backstory, you know, when he was first introduced, Kaido has been captured and defeated many, many times by other pirate crews and the Marines. Maybe that was referring more to his early years, when yes, he was very strong, yes, he had really powerful haki, yes, he had the dragon fruit, but he had not yet really mastered the dragon fruit to its fullest extent, and he thought too much of himself, which is actually a great subversion of Douglas Bullitt from Stampede, because that was what Douglas Bullitt was all about. Like, I'm a big, strong, tough guy that doesn't need anybody. I can beat everyone by myself. I'm Douglas Bullitt, right? That'd be really interesting if after Kaido survived God Valley and managed to get away, but the Rocks crew was obliterated and it was disbanded. You know, Rocks is not around anymore. Big Mom, Whitebeard, they all left. They all went to go do other things. Kaido decided, I can do this by myself. I don't need Captain Rocks. I don't need Lin Lin. I don't need Newgate. I can do all this by myself. And he tried to, and he failed multiple times. He tried to go up against really strong pirate crews. He was defeated. He tried to go up to the Marines or the world government by himself. He was captured maybe multiple times, even before they arrived at this point, okay? And so maybe that's when Kaido realized, he's like, wait a second. I might be a big, strong, tough guy, but maybe being a big, strong, tough guy isn't the only way to get stronger. Oh, maybe that's not enough. It's a crazy idea, right? So I love that, because we've seen so many boring characters in anime that really do just adhere to that trope. And I love the idea that maybe Kaido tried that, failed a bunch of times, and he's like, wait a second, maybe I should try doing something else. Maybe I should try to make a crew. Yeah, maybe that'll be a good idea, instead of just like throwing himself over and over again at the Marines or whatever, right? Well, anyway, I would say this flashback takes place at a maximum of like 37 years ago, like after God Valley. And maybe, I would say, I'd probably put it around 30 years to 32 years ago. Something along those lines, okay? Kaido is 59, so 30 years ago, you know, Kaido would be 49, 30, 29, he'd be 29. He was 21 when the Rocks crew was obliterated at God Valley. So I think that makes sense. Like, he was 21 after God Valley, and he tried to go out on his own for a few years. He tried to do that, the solo act thing, and it didn't work. He got captured. No, who knows how long he was captured at Punk Hazard. He might have been captured at Punk Hazard for years, for all we know. And then one day he just decided, you know what, I'm just going to break out of here, start my own crew, and we'll try to do that. All right? Something else that's very important is that as they are leaving Punk Hazard, Kaido looks down at King and says, oh, and don't worry, I will never sell you out, okay? Which is very interesting. In fact, it's very interesting and fascinating, because earlier in the arc, remember, Kaido went on that whole spiel about how pirates are always going to betray you. You know, like the Straw Hats are not coming. The Straw Hats are not going to fight with you. The Straw Hats are pirates. They are not like you, samurai. They are not honorable like you. They will discard you. They will use you for their own advantage and then throw you out with yesterday's trash, okay? Now, of course, he was wrong. The Straw Hats did show up to help the samurai, but that just kind of goes to show a little bit about Kaido's backstory. Like, Kaido was probably betrayed by somebody at some point there. Doesn't necessarily mean it was Rocks, although that is the prime culprit right now. Might have been something that happened even before he joined Rocks' crew. Maybe something when Kaido was a kid. Maybe he was betrayed by somebody. Who knows? But just the idea that Kaido treats he treats, you know, Jack, Queen, King with a decent amount of respect, as well as the Toby Roppo. And he says that line to King, like, don't worry, I'll never sell you out. That kind of throws something out there to me. Also, at this point, Kaido does not have his mustache. He just has like a little bit of a stubble on his lip, you know, so I would say maybe in his 20s, okay, at that point. And then they leave, and they start the Beast Pirates. I guess that's the day that it started, okay? I'm not really also sure if the reason why Kaido named him King was because of the playing card motif, or if it was just because he thought it was a cool name, like, you're really strong. Your name should be King. And then later on, he's like, wait a second, I can name my crew after playing cards. That's such a cool aesthetic. All right, that works. Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, that was the flashback. It was pretty cool. So Zoro tries to cut him. He cuts the rock, but he has the flames active, so it's not going to work. King summons another Imperial Dragon, which the fire that's like, Zoro even mentions it's as hot as magma. It goes to attack him. They clash in the air. King uses that little sword breaker technique again where he pushes the switch on his katana. It opens up those little slits so Zoro's swords get caught, although this time Zoro's swords don't get dragged away. He actually jumps back when he does that. He pulls the swords out of the sword breaker instead of him, like, throwing them away, and he's like, I won't let you take these swords. And so Zoro lands on the ground, and he looks over at him. He's like, I won't let you take these, Meito, okay? And at that point, King just wishes through the sky. Zoro realizes, okay, he's moving really, really fast, which can only mean the flames are no longer active. I can actually cut him now. So then he uses bird dance and boom, slices him perfectly. So King still gets a hit in, mind you. King kind of shows up with like a flying kick and boom, kicks Zoro right in the face. But Zoro, as he's getting kicked in the face at like Mach 2, is just like, one sword style, and like slices King right down the center. And so he slices him there. He goes back. They begin to exchange a volley of blows and just clashing like crazy. He's like, you've caught on to my weakness. And he's just like, yes. I just want to make sure I don't skip anything here, right? It's just like Zoro and him are just clashing. He's just like, you're on the defensive now. You're blocking more now, huh? They have a moment where they look at each other and they kind of accept each other. Like, King is like, you know what? If you actually manage to defeat me, that's whatever. If I manage to defeat you, you will forever be carved into my brain as a true warrior, as a true swordsman, right? I'll never forget you, kind of thing. So that's like the highest piece of honor that I guess King can really give to somebody, okay? He hasn't been so much about honor in this fight, at least not the same kind of honor and Bushido that Zoro subscribes to, but still, King, like, admits that, like, you're a really strong swordsman, you're a really strong fighter, and I respect strong fighters. That was the whole point of why he joined Kaido. He respected his strength. And so he's like, okay, I get that, right? And so there's really nothing left except for the final phase of the chapter and the final big bombastic attack from both of them. All right, so in one corner, we have King, the Tyrannomodon Lunarian, charging up the giant Imperial Fire Dragon. Yeah, it's just a giant magma fire dragon. Looks exactly like Kaido if he was made out of fire. So he summons the giant duck god, and he throws that at Zoro. He's like flapping his wings and summoning it. And then on the other side, we have Zoro charging up once again, the king of hell, Enma Santoryu. And then he uses 103 mercies, which I'm gonna have to look into that, the 103 mercies that he says. It's probably something in reference to Buddhism again, because there's a lot of references that he makes to Buddhism. Also, the name of the attack that he uses has Jigoku in it, Jigoku, and I think Jingoku from Bleach means hell. So it's like a pun, and Zoro's attacks are very punny. Zoro literally has an attack named Onigiri. I don't need to tell you that his attacks are punny a lot of times. Anyway, it's the Soaring Jigoku Dragon, or in the Viz translation, I love this. This is the most epic name for an attack ever, okay? In the Viz translation, it's Dragon Damnation. And then, boom, three-sword style, slices right through the fire magma dragon, and boom, cuts King, slices one of his wings clean off. Well, I guess not clean off. He doesn't cut off the whole wing, but he cuts like half of one of King's wings off right there, slices right through the dragon, and deals a lot of damage to King in the process. And then that's the end of the damn chapter right there, okay? So I can imagine at that point, Zoro has combined not just his Enma and the Conquerors and the armament, but also the ability to cut fire that he copied from Kinemon and applied it here, slicing right through this intensely hot magma fire duck dragon and managing to cut through King as well. And the look on King's face is just like, oh boy. And then that's the end of the chapter, all right? And so, yeah, it's pretty epic. Now, if we're following the same logic that we did with Sanji, this is the end of the fight right here. I would love the fight to continue. I'd like to find out a little bit more about King's past, but considering we did find out a lot about it here, I don't think we're going to learn more about it at this moment. I mean, who knows? We might find out more about the Lunarians later. I would like, you know what? This is probably not going to happen, but like, okay, how about this? How about... So King, you know, maybe Queen gets lost. Queen gets knocked over the edge, and so Queen just maybe leaves and wanders into the wilds of Udon or whatever. But King stays on Onigashima. He's just defeated, and Zoro passes out too because he's at his limit. And so after the battle is over, you know, maybe they're patching King up, and, you know, maybe Zoro sits down with him and they just have a chat or something, right? And, you know, and maybe, you know, King explains the history of his clan or whatever, and the Lunarians and what happened, and just like, yeah, we lived on top of the red line, we lived as gods, but we didn't mess with anybody, and then all of a sudden the world government showed up and just kicked our asses for no reason, and then took our home. Man, it sucked. And then Zoro's just really quiet, and he's like, oh, sorry for that thing I said about, you know, knocking you off the perch. And like, that was in context, that's kind of, you know, but anyway, yeah, I mean, I'd like to just have a scene like that where they can maybe converse, because King respects strong opponents, and he admits that Zoro is a strong opponent, so I think we can have that. But we definitely need to see more and hear more about the Lunarians and King's past, and maybe not even necessarily King's past, although that would be fascinating, but just the Lunarians in general. But I don't want him to just be never referenced by the end of the arc. I want him to, like, explain some stuff, or talk to the Straw Hats, or Zoro, or somebody, or Robin. Robin would actually be great. Robin to actually talk to King and be like, I've heard of you. You're a Lunarian. I can actually, you know, it was horrible what happened to your race. And then King was like, yeah, you aren't kidding, lady. But anyway, that was the chapter, probably the last chapter of 2021. It was a crazy year, a lot of ups and downs, both in the manga and in real life, but we're almost through it. We're almost done. So I feel like in 2022, Wano's going to be wrapping up. We're going to be moving on to the final saga of One Piece, which we still have a lot of it left, but just the idea that that's approaching is just a really crazy, surreal experience. But anyway, thanks for watching the video. Let me know down below how you feel about the end of the Sanji and Queen fight. How do you feel about the Zoro King fight and the backstory? We'll be definitely talking about that in more detail later on in my follow-up video tomorrow, so just, you know, wait for that. Also, we did the charity stream yesterday. I think it's up to like over $11,000 right now that we raised. If the link is still active, go check it out below to donate to St. Jude Children's Hospital if you couldn't make it to the stream yesterday. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking, signing out. Dragon Damnation! You also get the impression that that was the attack name that Zoro had for Kaido. He was like planning that for weeks. He's like, Dragon Damnation. That's it. That's the name. That's the attack I'm going to use to cut down Kaido, and he just never had the opportunity. Or he didn't think about it until after. Like, he used Dead Man's Game against Kaido, and he's just like, oh man, that attack name, it was cool sounding, but it didn't have anything to do with dragons. I should have came up with an attack name for dragons. And then as he was fighting King, he realized it's like King is throwing the fire dragons at him. He's like, wait a second. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. And then he thinks of Dragon Damnation and he uses it. Man, he has to use that against Kaido at some point. He has to. All right, later, everyone.